Okay, geometry students, I am giving you a sneak peek of the worksheet that you guys are going to be working on tomorrow. There's just a couple things I want to bring to your attention. I do believe that you can knock out pretty much all of the questions, but there might be a few that needs to be explained. So let's go and get started with that. All right, the first page, nothing on here looks too difficult. You've seen this before. We're using the segment addition postulate and the angle addition postulate. So none of this is new, so this is no problem at all. But one thing I want to bring your attention to is everything on the other side. The other side, we have talked about alternate interior angles, same side interior angles, things of that nature, but not necessarily in this particular setup. Notice what we have here. We have three angles, oh, I'm sorry, three parallel lines, three sets of parallel lines. We're used to seeing stuff that looks like this that I'm drawing right here. Okay, that looks like this. It's the same type of setup here, except now you're just going to have to really kind of dissect the information that you have as opposed to what you don't need. Like, for example, if I was going to take my highlighter and start highlighting some things, let me choose blue here, and let's say if I just decided to use these two as my parallel lines and using this right here as my transversal. Well, if you notice, there's my 8 angles here, which is very similar to this right here. Okay, so it's the same type of setup, except it just has a lot more lines to it, so don't get confused with that. Now, as we keep moving, finding each angle measure, you guys are not strangers to that, so you guys got this. Now, the one thing that I do want to bring to your attention is everything from questions 24 through 31. It says here, tell whether or not the lines are parallel. Okay, given the information. Now, here's what I want to bring to your attention. How do I know whether or not the lines are parallel? So let me insert a new page here. And so if I had a situation where I have two lines and here's my transversal, and let's say if I named this line, if this was line A and this was line B, and let's say if I had the question of is line A parallel to line B? All right, so let's say if I had that question here, and it's actually pretty simple, and you probably know the answer after I just will give you about 10 seconds of explanation here. But like, let's say I'm making numbers up. This was 50 degrees, and let's say this right here is 50 degrees, and then let's say this right here would obviously be 130, because guys, you know the whole concept of 360 vertical angles and all that mess. And so let's say this right here is 50 degrees, and of course this would be the exact same thing. I'll go 50 degrees, 130, and 130. So if I was given a situation that looked like this, where is line A parallel to line B? The answer is yes. And the reason I know it's a yes is because all the angles are exactly the same. I'm dealing with a 50 degree, 130 degree setup. Okay, so this will always be a yes, because if this is the same as this, we have duplicates. That's what we're looking for. All right, so but let's say if I changed it up and said 5130, and then I changed down here and said, okay, now this is 40 and this is 140, which means this right here would be 140 and this right here would be 40. Now is the line parallel to line B? Now the answer is a big no. And the reason why it's a big no is because this set of angles is not the same as this set of angles here. Okay? So that's kind of like where we're going with these questions. So let's go back to it here. All right, so going back, um, that's what we're kind of looking at. So like for question angle measure, when they give you something that looks like this, then you're going to have to figure it out with x equal 8. So they already actually gave you the answer, or what they believe the answer is. So from here, all you have to do is actually solve. So like a question like this, measurement angle 3, I would take X, I would plug it in there, and then I'd plug it in there, and I'd make my observations. So if angle 1 and 3, angle 1 is right here, angle 3 is right here, well, those should be congruent because those are corresponding angles. And so I'm making these numbers up, so please don't think I'm adding wrong or multiplying wrong. But let's just say if I plugged 8 into this problem and I ended up getting, let's just say 108, 108. And it looks like 188, but it's 108 degrees. And then let's say this right here is 108 degrees. Then I would say, are they congruent? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Now, of course, you might also want to put in, well, their corresponding angles. You can do that as well. But let's once again play the what if game, and let's say I plugged in 8, and once again I'm making these numbers up, so don't say, where are you getting these numbers? I'm making them off the top of my head. But let's say I plugged this in. Let's say this was 108 degrees, and then this right here was 104 degrees. So are they congruent? The answer is no. So if they're not congruent, these cannot be parallel. So the answer is no. All right, and that's kind of like the setup for questions 24 through 31. All right, remember to use your rules that we went over today regarding alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, vertical angles, corresponding angles, as well as same side interior. Use all of that to determine whether or not you have a setup that is exactly the same. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call later on tonight, or I'm sorry, later on tomorrow or something. But I think you should get this knocked out pretty easily. So, all right, have a good day.